Hello everyone and welcome to today's lesson. Today we will be learning about natural disasters. And the important points in today's chapter are earthquake and its effects, measuring the intensity of an earthquake, precautions during an earthquake, volcano and its types, tides and tsunamis, flood and its effects, precautions during a flood, and droughts and its effects. Now before we get into the lesson, here is something to boost your knowledge. We often hear about natural disasters that take place all around the world. Find out the most recent natural disaster that happened around you. Find and discuss in class. A disaster is an unexpected event which results in great loss, damage and destruction of property and life. Natural events that happen on earth which cause great damage or result in the loss of life are called natural disasters. An earthquake and its effects. An earthquake is a sudden movement in the surface of the earth. This takes place because of the movement of the rocks under the earth's surface. The place where the actual earthquake begins is known as the focus. The point on the surface of the earth directly above the focus is called the epicenter. The maximum effect of an earthquake is seen at the epicenter and becomes less as we start moving away from the epicenter. The effects of an earthquake are destruction of buildings, trees, roads, etc., huge loss of life, and spread of diseases. Measuring the intensity of an earthquake. The effects on the earthquake depend on the force by which they occur. Some earthquakes are very weak and only shake some items on the shelf. But some earthquakes are strong and buildings collapse, causing the death of numerous people. The intensity of an earthquake is determined by an instrument called the seismograph. The Richter scale is a standard scale of measuring the intensity of an earthquake. We measure the intensity from 1 to 10. Earthquakes that measure 1 or 2 are not felt. Earthquakes measuring on the scale as 3, 4 or 5 can cause damage. Earthquakes measuring 6 and above on the Richter scale can cause widespread damage to life and property. Now did you know Zhang Heng of China's Han Dynasty was the first person to invent an instrument to detect earthquakes. Precautions during earthquakes. There are certain precautions that you can take during an earthquake. For example, do not panic and run around everywhere. If you are in a room, take shelter under a table or a bed. Do not stand near something or under something that can fall over you. Do not use an elevator if you are on the upper floors. Use the staircase. And if you are outdoors, stand in an open area, away from all buildings and trees. Volcanoes and their types. A vent or crack on a mountain out of which hot magma flows out is called a volcano. A vent is a place on the Earth's surface where the crust is weak and it develops a crack. Once hot magma flows out of the Earth's surface, it is called lava. After a volcanic eruption, a crater is formed at the vent. Volcanoes can be described as active, dormant, or extinct. Active volcanoes. These are very dangerous. They can erupt anytime or have erupted in recent times. There are active volcanoes in the United States like Mount St. Helens and in the Philippines like Mount Mayon. Now did you know the danger area around a volcano covers about a 32-kilometer radius. Dormant volcanoes. Volcanoes that have not erupted over a long period of time but may erupt in the future are called dormant volcanoes. Some dormant volcanoes are Mount Kea in Hawaii, Mount Edziza in Canada, and Narcondam in the Andaman Islands of India. Extinct volcanoes. Volcanoes that are not expected to erupt in the future are called extinct volcanoes. Some extinct volcanoes are Mount Ashitaka in Japan, Shiprock in the United States, and Zuidwal in the Netherlands. Effects of volcanic eruptions. Volcanic eruptions cause damage to roads, property, and loss of life. The volcanic dust also blocks the sun for a long period of time, causing a change in the weather. Advantages of volcanic eruptions. after a volcanic eruption, the soil becomes very fertile and good for farming. We can also use the volcanic locations for producing geothermal energy. Now, did you know? An area in the Pacific Ocean which consists of 452 volcanoes is known as the Ring of Fire. Tides and tsunamis. Tides are the rise and fall in the sea level. At times, the waves in the sea are high and at times they are low. This rise and fall in the tide is because of the gravitational force of the sun and the moon. The tides are at their highest when the sun, moon and earth are in a straight line. The rise of large amounts of water in the form of huge waves due to volcanic eruptions or earthquakes underwater is called a tsunami. When there is a disturbance between the layers of rocks in the Earth's surface under a water body, a large amount of energy is released. This causes huge waves, and a tsunami can lead to great loss of life and property. It is advised to stay at high altitudes during a tsunami. On December 26, 2004, a tsunami hit India, which caused a lot of damage to life and property in Tamil Nadu and Kerala. The Andaman and Nicobar Islands of India were also hit. Now, did you know? Tsunami is a Japanese word, which in English translates to harbor wave. Floods and their effects. About 75% of the Earth's surface is covered in water. When water bodies like oceans, rivers, lakes or ponds have excess water, they tend to overflow, causing floods. Floods occur owing to natural factors like heavy rainfall, formation of a low pressure region in the ocean, or excess melting of snow on the mountains or glaciers. We can prevent floods if proper streams or channels are made for excess of water to flow out. If there are enough trees planted which stop the force with which the flood water flows. If we have enough mud to absorb the excess water, and if we have proper embankments to control the amount of water that flows into the river. Effects of floods: damage to property, loss of life, and spread of waterborne diseases. In June 2013, Uttarakhand and nearby villages received heavy rainfall, which resulted in flooding and landslides. More than 5,700 people died. Here are some precautions we can use during floods. Do not panic. Always listen to the flood warning given on TV and radio. Leave the area where the flood water is bound to flow. Move to a higher location where the flood water cannot reach. Always keep medicines, food supplies and packets of clean drinking water ready. Always follow the instructions of the rescue team workers. Drought and its effects. A drought is a condition of severe shortage of water, both on the surface and underground. Some droughts go on for a short period of time, but some continue for several years. Droughts occur owing to less or no rainfall and also excessive use of water. Droughts can lead to destruction of crops, malnutrition and death of humans and animals, and mass movement of people from one place to another. The effects of drought can be controlled by judicious use of water that is available, using rainwater harvesting, recycling of water, and cultivating crops that require less water. Some of the major drought-prone areas in India are South and East Maharashtra, North Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Orissa, Gujarat, and Rajasthan. So here is a quick sum up of today's lesson. Natural events on the earth that cause great damage or loss of life are called natural disasters. The actual point where an earthquake starts below the earth's surface is known as the focus. The point on the earth's surface directly above the focus is known as the epicenter. The intensity of an earthquake is measured by an instrument called the seismograph. Volcanoes are described as active, dormant, or extinct. The tides reach their maximum height when the earth, sun, and moon are in a straight line. Disturbances in the rock layers in the earth's crust below a water body causes a tsunami. When water bodies like oceans, rivers, ponds, and lakes are filled with excess water, they tend to overflow, causing floods. A drought occurs owing to the lack or insufficient rainfall or excessive use of water. So here is the glossary of today's lesson. Crust, the tough outer part of the Earth's surface. Epicenter, the central point of something. Widespread means general. Staircase, a set of stairs along with its surroundings like a wall or a structure. Magma, hot fluid or semi-fluid below or within the Earth's crust. Eruption, a sudden outbreak of something. Worst means of the poorest quality. And devastating means highly damaging. So here is a mind map of today's lesson. An earthquake occurs because of a disturbance in the Earth's crust. There are certain precautions we can take during an earthquake. Volcanoes are of three types: active, dormant, and extinct. There are effects and advantages of volcanic eruptions. Tides are the rise and fall in the sea level, and tsunamis are caused when there is a disturbance in the Earth's crust under a water body. Floods are caused because of overflow of water bodies. We can take certain precautions during floods. Floods can also be prevented. The effects of floods are loss of life, damage to property, and spread of waterborne diseases. Droughts are a condition of severe shortage of water. There are certain effects of droughts, and those can be controlled.